Hey y'all, this is Joe out at St. Bernard Acres. Welcome to the Noisy Barn. I get a lot of questions concerning our purchase of this land, how we found it, what made us choose this, and what I would suggest to people who are looking to buy property, for a homestead. And I'll tell you, Gail and I searched probably 4 years. Drove around and looked at different property, looked at things on the internet, just local papers, land for sale. Not really having a whole lot of specifics in mind with what we wanted. Because we're not looking for some hidden, remote, nobody will ever find us type of property. Not looking out, looking for a survival bug out shelter when the shit hits the fan. We were just looking for a place that we could, retire to, grow a garden on, build a little house on it, have chickens, maybe some animals. We'll see how that goes. Everybody talks about, you gotta check on certain codes and all this, city ordinances, and while that's true, again, we weren't trying to hide from anything or sneak anything around. I didn't want to be out, as a recluse somewhere. We're out in a very rural, very country area. We have a dirt road that runs all the way around the property, but it's a county road and it's maintained by the township road. It's maintained by the township that we're in. And there are no building inspections or building codes per se. You can go in, it costs $10 for a permit to build a cabin. The only thing that is inspected and does require an permit and a fee is a septic system. So when I put my septic in, it's going to have to be done through the county. They'll have to come out and see where the leach field is, test everything, and when the guy's installing it, they come out and make sure that everything's installed properly, and then they do yearly inspections of it. And I don't have a problem with that. I want my septic system working. I do not want to hire somebody, I can put in a septic system, we don't have to tell anybody about it. I don't want that. I want a reliable septic system because I don't want to wake up some night, smell something that broke free. Because I can guarantee you it ain't cotton candy that comes out of me. I don't have a problem with that. I'll pay to have that done. It also helps in getting electric run to the place. My primary thought in starting this process was to go totally off the grid. And then as time has come, I'm going to have electric run to the place. Once I get the septic installed, they will run electric out to the house free of charge. I just have to pay my monthly bill. But there's no fee for running the poles or running the lines or anything. If I didn't have a septic system installed and I just had a dry cabin, then they would charge me to run all of that out here. They would charge, what they quoted me was $4,000 to run a pole out here with electric on the pole. If I build a house and put in a legal septic system within 3 years, I would get that $4,000 back. But I can have the septic system put in for $1,500. So hopefully sometime this year we have the septic put in, and I'll have the electric company come out and run electric to us. And I'm going to be adding solar and obviously wind turbines. So that kind of played a part in the decision to buy this piece of property. But I think a lot of it has to do when you're looking for your property that you want to homestead on. Some of the key elements you have to think about is, number one, and most importantly, can you afford it? That's a big factor, and that's a big holdback for a lot of people. In searching for this, we found companies as well as individuals who are selling land that are more than happy to do it on a land contract, or they'll carry the financing, with 10% down. And there's nothing magical about that. It's the property is deeded in your name, and the owner who financed it to you is like a lien holder. And if you don't fulfill your obligations to pay for it, then he can take the property back because of your failure. But if you look in the county deeds and you look for this piece of property, you will see that this is owned by Joe and Gail Waller. It's not a land contract is no different than a mortgage to a bank. It's just instead of the bank carrying the mortgage, an individual is carrying the mortgage. And you make your payments to that individual. That's the only difference. There's not credit checks and all of the government stipulations in a standard mortgage. You accept the land as is, and you make payments on it. As the owner of the land, I'm responsible for all the taxes on it. This is all my responsibility. Even though I would have somebody else carrying the note for me, I would still be responsible for it as though I were the landowner. And I am. I just borrowed money against it, to get it. That's basically what a land contract is. And we found dozens and dozens of people who were willing to do that. So that's an option, 10% down. You might pay a little bit more of an interest rate, but they can work with you and set your terms up to where it's affordable to you. So when you're looking for land, don't think that you have to go out, and you don't have to go spend cash on it. Now, I will tell you, unless you have excellent credit or a relationship with a bank, it's difficult to get mortgage on vacant, unimproved property. That's not an easy thing to get through a bank unless you put a whopping down payment on it and just borrow a little bit of it. But that's one way to help you find your land. Now, the things to look for, in my opinion, I needed a flat enough area for gardening, for building the house on. I'm in the hill country here. I'm on top of a hill, basically. But I have enough, flat area that I can make it work just fine. What we have here is a little over 10 acres. About 1.5 acres of it, maybe 2 by the time I add in where we're putting the fruit orchard. Probably 2 acres we will actually be using as our homestead and our yard and our garden and, you know, where we graze animals. That's all you need. The other, you know, there's probably 6 acres of this really is not usable because, as I said, we live on top of a hill, and you go back behind my property here, there's a nice level area where the garden will be. Then there's another big flat area where we're going to plant the fruit trees. But then it goes down a steep valley down to a stream that runs back behind there and goes all the way up again to our property line over there. So it's really not usable for anything other than wildlife, you know, for hunting and harvesting wood if we wanted, if we needed wood to burn in the fireplace. I've got probably 8 acres of woods, and they're not big giant trees. This property was timbered probably 25 years ago, and a big majority of that is that size. I know it's hard. I shouldn't be doing this on camera, but a big majority of that is all overgrown and tree growth now. That used to be pasture land for the owner of this original farm. But again, it's been 25 years since anything was touched out here, so it's all overgrown, and I'll just let it continue to grow. I'm not going to need that kind of pasture land. I can clear out an area, because if we do get cows, we'll only get 1 or 2 cows. I don't need, 80 acres to put, a dozen head of cattle on or something. We're not going to get into that. So that's what some of the things we wanted to make sure that we could get. We could have us a small garden. We could have us room for our St. Bernards, our dogs to run around in the yard, place to build a house, something that could take a normal leach field septic system, and right next to my property, the other half of the property that was sold had the old house on it and the leach field and everything. So, the county knows that the ground passes the perk test or whatever it's called. And we're just building a little tiny house. Little 1 bedroom, 1 bath house. So we only need a small septic system. We don't need some big giant septic. So that was, one of the things that we considered. And we also, would like to make sure that we can actually grow a garden, that the soil is good enough to grow a garden. Well, this used to be a farm, and the way things grow around here in the wild, I'm taking it, I'm not a geologist. I don't know, pick up a handful of dirt and know what kind it is or what the elements are in it, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to grow some food out here. We'll be able to get our garden going. And we've got plenty of room for the chickens, because we're definitely going to have chickens out here. So, in our 1.5 acres, 2 acres, we're going to be able to have a really nice working homestead. And those are some of the things to look for. And I've seen some property, that is advertised as building and recreation, 10 acres for only, $20,000. And you go look at it, and it's a hillside. I don't know where they planned on you building unless you're going to build into the hill. And there's some property around here like that that's for sale, but it's not, in my opinion, that's strictly for recreation, to go out and hunt on and things like that. It's not conducive to building a homestead on, in my opinion. So, when you go out and inspect the property, you look for things like that. In my opinion, that's what we were looking for. Cost is, I don't know, we have the little over 10 acres, and we got this barn that was already on it. We got this for $2,700. Now, this land company that goes around and buys up all this land and then keeps the mineral rights, and then they speculate on the oil and gas that's in it, and then they turn around and sell. They chop it up. They'll buy just a mile and a half or so away. They bought about 380 acres, and they've broken it into parcels, and they're selling the land. And if you don't factor in this barn at all, I paid then $2,700 per acre to get these 10 acres. They're selling, and it's amazing. I just did this 3 years ago. I bought this at $2,700 an acre. Every day I go look on their website, and more of their lots that have sold, because they mark each one off, each location off as sold. And they're getting anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000 an acre now. So in only 3 years, this property is almost doubled. So it's getting more and more expensive to do this, which makes me think you don't want to spend a whole lot of time just searching. If you find something that you like and you think it's going to work, my advice is to jump on it, because it's getting harder to find. And I think it's getting harder to find because I have so many people asking me, how did I find it? Where did I find it? How much was it? Do I know of any around? Is anybody else selling any? Do you have any advice for me? I'm looking for something. I need to buy it. So that leads me to think maybe, it's getting more difficult to find. So if you're in the market and you find something you think is going to work, you ought to go ahead and jump on it, in my opinion. But that was my main criteria in searching for property.